Hey everybody, welcome back to Trading ThinkScript. It's great to be with you. As always, my name is Mike Fairborn, Senior Manager here at Charles Schwab. Folks, so today we're going to try to build an awesome scan using the awesome oscillator, an indicator developed back in 1998 by Bill Williams. It's a fascinating indicator, uses some unique approaches to actually looking for strength within a breakout. I don't know if you've seen it before, but I've tried to develop, and today we did develop, a scan that looks for the strongest, what I think it to be the strongest signal really of three key ways to trade it. So we've got the indicator that's actually built into the platform. We've actually got a scan on top of it, and some fascinating companies, to take a look at today that are presenting that. And of course, we share those scans within ThinkScript. And we'll dive into that just momentarily, but did want to welcome everybody back to the discussion. Hello to you, Paul. Good to have you on board. It is ThinkScript time, says Jenny Michelle. And you know what, Jenny? You're right. It's exactly that time right now. And hopefully you'll find this to be a good presentation. They do, I guess he called it the Awesome Oscillator for a reason. It's kind of built into the name, but we shall see what you guys think about it. Hello to you, Robert, as well as Rocky. We've got Jackson and others in here into the chat. Sam, David, Will, good to welcome you, and Life in the Fast Lane, folks, many others too. Any questions, comments you have, throw those in the chat so we can try to address those for you. I'll try to keep an eye on those as well. Do have a good friend and colleague of mine here with us today. He is KH. You see him in the chat. That is Kevin Horner. Great to have him on board with us today. Great coach, great instructor, and thank you, Kevin, for having my back in this discussion here. And with that, everybody, let's dive on into some disclosures so we get quickly past that. Move into our core discussion today. Excited to get into it. All right, first off, wanted to note paper money software application is provided for educational purposes only. Now, backtesting results, which we do look at here in this class frequently. In fact, we're always looking back at those results. They are, they're hypothetical. There's no guarantee that the same strategy implemented today would produce similar results going forward. Now, obviously, the key reason for that is the market, when you're looking at it when it's closed, it's a closed system. All the data's in, but new data is coming out all the time. So things can look similar, but nothing's exactly the same. And you just need to be very mindful of that. Uh, okay, but yeah, there's no guarantee of that strategy producing similar results going forward. Now, investing involves risk, including for some products more than your initial investment. Past performance in any security strategy does not guarantee future results or success. And a quick look at what we do oftentimes view here in this class, and that's futures. We just look at the charts, though. We don't go into futures trading. We have other classes for that do look at example futures trades that we do dive into throughout the week. But yeah, just want to state futures and futures options trading does involve substantial risk, not suitable for all investors. And again, we just look at the charts only. All right, well, if you're new to the class, welcome. It's great to have you here. We meet at the same time each and every week, and looking forward to our discussion today. We do have a link, by the way. Kevin has posted that link. Thank you, Kevin. The highlight, I should say, the archives is what it is, of ThinkScript. You'll find that listed there in that group that he just posted. And within that, Kevin has the same thing for his classes. So be sure to check out his stuff as well. All right, well, let's get going on. Some cool stuff to kind of take a look at today. We're going to dive right on into it. We've been looking at a lot of different sort of like oscillators in the past and different sorts of moves and setups. But today I wanted to look at, yes, one created by Bill Williams, he's a famous investor. uh, you might have heard of him. He's written, several different sort of books, topics on technical analysis. This was developed in 1998, which was kind of an interesting time, right? The dot-com era. It ended up being the dot-com bubble, but there was a lot of strength in there, and we're seeing some of the same similarities in today's market in terms of just like an AI kind of a big explosion growth. And they always say these will end up in a bubble. Nobody knows when, where it might come down, but they are saying, hey, we're kind of in that. So it's interesting to kind of tap into that indicator at the same time. We have a similar sort of a background that we did have with the internet expanding in the late 90s. So with that, let's go ahead and bring up this indicator. I'm going to show it to you right here, and I'm going to discuss it first so we're all on the same page. We know exactly what it does. It's at the top of the list. It's in the A's. It's awesome. You just type, I should say, just type in awesome and you'll get it. That's what I'm trying to say. We can add that in. I'm going to add it here in just a second. But before I do so, let's explain it so we can see it. I want to describe it on the chart because there are three distinct ways really that Bill Williams has used this, and I think other traders have as well. They're really interesting, fascinating approach. We've never discussed this indicator, let alone build a scan in ThinkScript, which is where really a lot of the value is at. Because that way you can find companies that are hitting off maybe the strongest indication of the awesome oscillator or any oscillator for that matter. But I'm going to click on it right here. I'm going to highlight this and just mention, um, in fact, let's do this. I'm going to pull it up so we can see it. That makes a lot of sense right there. And then we can talk about it. And that's it right there. Now, what on earth is this histogram showing here? What is it showing? Well, let's do this. I'm going to go over here and highlight. Let me actually just take off the volume. Volume's in an interesting area. You got to go into the wheel, take off the volume. I'm just going to stick with this today as it stands. I happen to have Chevron up right now. It's not really one that I had coming up on my list here, but we're still just going to take a quick peek at it and go from there. All right. So with that in mind, let's do this. Or Adobe's fine too. Yeah. So we can do Adobe. So with Adobe, we're looking at this, and this is what's going on as we talk about it here. Now, we are going to be looking at a bit of some move above the zero line. You did notice here, there is a zero line. It's very important to note an interesting zero line. Oftentimes, if you're above there, it means trending. And by the way, with Adobe, yeah, into software, what have we seen with software? This. And we've spent a lot of time below that zero line. I mean, a lot of time. So just recently spiking up and actually spiking up way beyond the high, what above the highest point in the last year. Software is kind of interesting right now. In terms of maybe a bottom formation, who knows? We got to wait and see how that trend unfolds. But we've got this up right now. And what we're looking at within that awesome oscillator is it looks at two uh, interesting averages, moving averages, but those moving averages are based upon the range. First of all, there's a 34, which is really about 1.5 months, right? In terms of calendar days, which is going to be tracking here, about 1.5. And then we've got a very, very short-term one, which makes this really interesting because it's saying, how is the short-term moving average? These are the MAs. How are they doing relative to a little bit longer term, short-term to intermediate months? Let's do MO here for short. Obviously, 5 is, 1 week, 1 week time frame. So a 1 week versus a 1.5 month. And what we're doing here, and this is what makes this so interesting, is we're measuring the median range. So this is fascinating because it plays a lot of sensitivity. It is in a sense an ATR, but I haven't seen an ATR using necessarily two median moving averages. And what I mean by median is it takes the bar and it simply says, well, what's the high? I'll just do H for short, plus the low. So we're getting the full range of the bar here. Does that make sense? The high and the low. We're not looking at opening or closing. In fact, this ignores it completely. It takes the high and the low, and what does it do? It just divides it by two. It gets the median, the middle range of that number. And that's the important price here, which is really kind of unique. It's unique because it's using two moving averages that are medians, but within that median, it's measuring the entire range, which can be very interesting for breakouts. This is the awesome oscillator. So this is totally unique in terms of what we've done previously. And let's just see how this plays out, particularly in a time when there are a lot of big moves within the market. All right, so there are a few different ways to trade this. Now, I'm going to talk about the one that actually is perceived to be the strongest signal, and it has to do with this. It's called the saucer strategy. This is the one we built the ThinkScript on. Okay, but you have to be above. So first rule, number one here, let's just put it up here. Number one, you have to be greater than the zero line or greater than zero. And that zero line right there is here. Now, what does that indicate? General strength within the trend. You're breaking above a range. In other words, you've exceeded The fives exceeded the 30. You're trending higher according to this indicator. Now, when you're breaking out here, you have to have bars that are moving up. I've got to just change that. Let's do this. Let's just, actually, I'm really just looking at this area. This is actually the saucer because it does have a signal here. It did actually find this. But this is the move. So you're above the zero and you have to remain above zero, okay? Above zero. You have to stay there throughout this entire signal. Now, the scan does this for us in the background, okay? Above zero. Here is your breakout here, right? And what do you have? You have to have a minimum. So I already said this. So one greater than zero. And the second one is in terms of the second step, you have to have two consecutive, I'll just do a little shorter, consecutive down bars, or I'll just say red bars here. Red bars in the histogram. In other words, we're seeing something interesting here. We're seeing enough strength to get above the zero line, which is what we did here. And then what we're doing is we're actually breaking above that level with a pullback. We're seeing a pullback here. You have to have two consecutive ones. Now, after the two consecutive ones, and maybe I could just do this. Look at this. This is a cool little tool over here, right? This is going to be good because I think I can highlight exactly the ranges of what I'm after. I can't. Look at that. Beautiful. The difference is what's the color? That's kind of hard to see. So let me just lighten that up quite a bit and use them more. And we'll just use like one of these over here. We could stick with blue. That's no problem. Like right over here. It's more of a purple. That's fine. Can you see that beneath this, behind that number? So you've got the two down and the two up. That is our third criteria for this saucer strategy. Number three, you have to have two consecutive, well, in this case, green bars. In other words, up bars, right? Green bars, bars, two consecutive green bars, and it shows everything right here. When you got that, that is your signal right there. It's interesting. It's a little bit more than just a hold, but it's fascinating what it can pull up above that zero line. That's a totally different criteria we looked at before. So that is what we've got here. That is the saucer. Let me hit the other two kind of quickly because the other two I haven't developed a think script for. However, and one of them kind of pushed me to my limits trying to do the long setup, which is referred to as the long setup. But I didn't quite get there yet. I'm going to show it to you. Sure. Let's just use something like a Micron to highlight this in terms of the long setup. And what that long setup is this right here. So this is strategy number two. Let's just use a actual diagonal line that I can tap into here. Okay, perfect. So what we're looking for is a move down here. Oh, it almost got it. It didn't quite get it. It's a lower peak right there. So this peak off this top, when you break above that level, which you did right there, that's another entry point. The problem is, and this was a good flag on this too. Look at that. I mean, it flagged it really well. It went below zero. That shows weakness and it can represent sort of longer term weakness. And so that doesn't work. Let me get another one. I don't know, TXN or Cisco would be one probably that, oh, CSCO. There we go. No, there was a lot of strength over here too. What we're looking for basically, here's one here under Bristol Myers. No, they keep dipping below the zero. Oh, actually, technically we have one right here. Okay, this is exactly what we're after. You're looking for above the zero line, and then as soon as you take out this level right there, you see it? The trend line break right here. This is referred to as a long setup. In other words, the stock has already shown strength. Be mindful that it could get ready to get going any minute now. I'm going to try my best to draw in a line over here. It has nothing to do with two bars. All it is you have a decreasing bar here, and the sensitivity of the indicator takes this out. I'm going to draw this up. Oof. Okay, there we go. Ah, geez, it's about right in here. somewhere. It's just breaking that high. It just says there's strength in there. Now, you know, that is an indication that we didn't run up much higher. In fact, it was longer term resistance, I believe, on BMY, but that's the other one. So you're using actually a trend line still holding above zero here on this. Now, I've got one more, and you guys are going to probably resonate with this one, but this is picking them up off the bottom, and this would probably be the next one I would develop. By the way, it's going to be easier than a trend line for sure. A lot easier. The trend line, I'm still working on that trend line. In fact, I had to adjust our scan today a little bit, but this is referred to as the twin peaks. And you have to stay below the zero line off of each of those peaks. This is it right here. So if I zoom in, and this is interesting because this does pick up on a fair number of potential entries, just going back and looking at bottoms as they're forming. Look over here with me. You see this coming down? You have to have a trend line coming up in this case. So it's like the long strategy, but it's different in the sense that we are making higher lows here. Any idea where that signal is going to come in at? It's going to come in right over here. There we go. Oh, trying to draw it. It's not drawing. After you touch off that, what are you looking for? You're looking for the two bars coming up like that. It's the same thing, but it can help to identify kind of bottom type movers. If you guys are interested in this, let me know in the chat. I can work on developing this through next week. And I'm not going to be using a trend line. There's a different way to do it. You're just looking at a higher low over a range is basically what you're looking for. And that's something that can be done on kind of a loop back code there. But that was interesting too, right there. As you can see, I think, did I not see one of these on Adobe as well? DBE. No, I didn't. Okay, we didn't see it. No, no, not really. Okay, so we saw it there, and that's kind of what you'll see off of the bottom formation, but it's actually a reversal. This is interesting too, because look what you had on BMY. You had the two signals come back to back. You got the minimum of two. You have to have a minimum of two bars above zero. You broke out, you held, and there you go. There are your two. Where was that last signal at? Right there. Strange one. Still going flat, but it gave you, there was sensitivity there. The five median moving average was moving up greater than, it was moving up, I should say, above the 34. Now, I want to stop before we hit the scan. I do want to look at the chat here real quick, but you guys, this is the big thing. This is the big one. Got to step back on these and just look and see what these are developing is the way I try to look at this now. I've been doing this for over a couple of decades, over 25 years. And one of the things that's so important is a lot of people, when they see the indicator right here, they'll say, great. Or what they say, you know what they would say? They would say, awesome. Because, yeah, it's that indicator. But what's really going on? This is a really fascinating setup that this one will find on the saucer. That was, I chose the one that I think is the strong, well, I think Bill Williams talked about it being the strongest because it's above zero the whole time and you're getting that additional confirmation above the zero. Right? You're getting some trends there. This is it, though. You've got to look at what you're seeing here on the chart. This is a rare setup. These are interesting when they happen. Now, let's just back up on this and say, what did this find? Because this found it. I pulled this off the scan, not even really knowing it. I ran it back over a period of time, which I do, back testing it, let's say a look back period of a month or 2 months, and I get a bunch of these just to see, is this going to be something valid we can talk about, da, 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 da. This one came up. What do you see here? When you step back and you look, what did this scan pull up for us? Anything strike you guys here? I'm going to highlight this area right there. What's interesting about it? Okay, I'll step back and I'll say this. First of all, there's kind of a weekly flag pattern developing here. That's a breakout above highs, okay? That's in a longer term extension. The bull flags, I think, are one of the biggest I mean, the most followed trading patterns out there in the market. And because you're getting a strong upward move and a more mild pullback. Yeah. And you're retaining that range. You're not giving up all what you've gained. What does that tell us? That tells us that kind of speaks to the strength of that move. But on a weekly scale, that's you can kind of maybe get some bigger moves coming out of a weekly. In other words, there's just more price action. Do you see the size of this move? I mean, that's kind of like a sizable move. This is not like a small mini bull flag, right? This is like, is it on order of this pole over here? Question mark. I mean, the awesome oscillator. Okay, but not just the awesome oscillator because it did show it, but the saucer strategy specifically found when that weekly had kind of double bottomed here, made a new high, and what's it doing now? It's just sitting there. We got our signal right there. It was like a day before it actually shot up. You see what I mean? That's interesting. This is interesting, right? That's interesting relative to just, oh, I got a buy signal. Great. Let's see what we got on the charts because you guys are very good at this, looking at chart patterns, but that's like, that could be the start of the flag pattern. In this case, the weekly flag pattern, right? The weekly, the WFP, weekly flag pattern. Yeah, I mean, it could be. And it'd be very interesting if you start to break out of that range because what you have setting up. So you have to step back. You got to look, but I think that's where a lot of value's at. Yeah. And by the way, Paul, flag, yes. Oh, okay. I just answered the question. Okay, good to know. Yeah. Is this a scan? There is a scan. We're going to jump into the scan right now. But I think we're all on the same page. Kevin, thank you for typing question in the chat. Folks, before we hit that scan, if you are getting value out of our discussion today, do us a favor here. Kevin and I know that you are getting value out of our presentation and smash that like button. That's one of the things I care about just because it lets us, it's sort of a validation of what we've done and you guys are finding value and don't smash it if you're not finding value. Definitely don't. But if you are, smash it, just lets us know. Easy thing to do right off of the box. But also follow Kevin on X. Kevin Horner CS, Mike Fairborn CS. Here is my handle right here. You guys can check this out. I got a few things in here. Yeah, well, just a few things to take a look at. Talked about the Federal Reserve yesterday. I got some things to post today as well. I'm always upset when I don't post my sunset photos or whatever on top of the mountain because I always have like almost one a day, and I don't ever. It frustrates me. But I'm trying to get into the habit of doing it. You have to do something like for 30 days in a row, right, to get a habit. But that would be probably that'd be overkill. But anyways, we post interesting things on there sometimes. And folks, also, just as a side note, while you're here, easy thing to do, and I'll put this in the chat as well. Be sure to subscribe to our Trader Talk channel. We'd love to have you on board. I know many of you are. Will, Paul, David, Riceberg, Sharon, others are on board with us, folks. But if you can just subscribe here under Trader Talks. In fact, let me just share this link right here just so you have it. But look at that. We've got 100 and, excuse me, gosh, no, not 100, 207,000 subscribers. We'd love to have you on board. You do get access to the playlists and everything, which are great. Be sure to check out Kevin's playlist he does in the mornings, every morning when he's here. He's also out on the road. Check him out on the road as well. If he's in your neck of the woods, does a great job there. I understand as well, for sure. But the Trader Talks right through there. You've got it. The one he shared earlier, the one we did last week is right there, and that's just the ThinkScript one. Anyways, you got it all there. I'm going to throw it in the chat, and let's hit the scan right now. Okay, so let's go into our scan tab up top here. And by the way, a quick note, I don't know if I said this earlier, but ThinkScripts aren't guaranteed for timeliness or accuracy. As long as the data is flowing through, it should just be a mathematical calculation. And Schwab, I mean, we have good data. So I'm just throwing that out, but we just can't guarantee the accuracy of them. Right. Makes sense. All right. So you've got a few over here. Now you're going to see something interesting that I posted as we go into the scan. This is the scan. I've set this up. I wanted to see what was going on first of all. You're going to have to change this if you wanted to scan in a different group. First and foremost, I tried the S&P 100. I just wanted to try it and see what we got in there. There is the S&P 100. I found this under the public folder. Boom, right at the top. You might want to go to the 500. If you're looking for tech stocks specifically, maybe some of those potential reversals off the bottom, like we had just seen with well, some of those others and previously. I mean, we did see one a little bit ago with BMY, Adobe, some others, but you want to go in here and just select the NASDAQ 100, right? It's really important to know what database you're searching in. I mean, if I was searching in something like with no liquidity or something, gosh, that would be a tough one because then you're getting signals on something that doesn't have liquidity, whatever, doesn't trade a lot. I'm choosing these indices to help us in that regard. Okay, couple things as I pull up that indicator right now. Over here, uh, I did put a look back period in here. Now I'm going to change this because I did want to say, that green bar that we were getting. I don't have green here. I might down the road though. But remember, we had a couple of these were green bars coming off for the red bar for our signal. I have red though, don't I? Yeah. We had a couple of red bars, just the opposite. They were going down, right? As long as we have two consecutive ones going lower, and then the two green bars, we got a signal. But I said look back of two. That's built into this code because, hey, maybe we want a signal that occurs one day after this signal or 2 days after this signal. Folks, knock yourself out. Put as many as you want in here. When I test things out, sometimes I just go back to a month. I might go like 20 days or 21 days or something, a full market day, excuse me, a full market month. That's really far. But that's just for me to see how it's looking, okay? This is more for like getting a signal before it gets too late, before the rally gets too long. Because what you're saying is it's probably, I mean, it could be going like this. Oh, sorry, that's huge. But like this, it could be going like higher, higher from that point. Okay, and you need to be mindful of that. It's still moving, but it could go really. I mean, it's happening now. It's happening 1 bar or 2 bars. 2 bars ago, and we've seen quite a few. We have 21 out of the S&P, so about just over 20% of those. I guess technically we'd say 21%, right, of the S&P 500 doing this within the last 2 bars. Watch this. What if my look back is 0 bars? Do we have anything happening today? If you wanted to see it today, just as a quick note, you'd have to run it today. Boom. AIG Microsoft. Let's just take a look and make sure this scan is working. Again, not guaranteed for timeliness or accuracy, but let's take a look at it. AIG. Did you get it? We did. Technically, it did. Technically, it did. And by the way, technically, it's an interesting sort of a setup. It's a big down day. I'll tell you that. I mean, relatively speaking, it's down about over 2%. But are we above the zero line? Did we have an initial move? Yes, we did. And it captures this initial move. Very important because you've seen something here like a longer term possible flag pattern, weekly maybe, break up, another consolidation, some initial signs right there, possibly, but there are your 2 bars. It did it. But that's today. That's the second bars right now. We don't even know if it's gonna. So here's a trick too. There's about 30 minutes left of the trading day. If we close lower today, this could still flip red. I wanted to show you that because that could in fact happen. It could still turn red. Microsoft was the other one. We're going to go to like one or two here, taking a look at those here in just a second. But there's Microsoft. Could this be? I mean, that's a big earnings reversal. What is this showing us? That's the key. What is it showing us? Let me just highlight a couple of interesting elements here. Microsoft's been down for a while. Double bottom? Well, technically, as soon as you break above a high over here, that's, a lot of technicians would say when you break the high, you can call that a double bottom. Now, could it come back down again to another bottom? Sure. But that's the move. It is on earnings, and this could be one to keep an eye on because sometimes earnings can play a key role in flipping patterns around. It can. I mean, I should say flipping trends if we're seeing earning strength within a company. I'm going deep on this because I don't want us to just look at the signal alone. I want to say, what's going on? This is a gap off the bottom. Maybe it's enough. Maybe it's enough for us to start doing this. Oh shoot, there's our weekly right there. Could we be bouncing now off this longer term bottom? And we be on our way up towards prior highs? That's the question. That's the question. There's some real strength in here, so we can take a look at it. Okay. I'm doing a lot of filling in here because I want you guys to look at that, but let's go back to it right now. In fact, I'll share it right now. And so I'll put that in the chat here for you. Let me just share it. I'm going to expand. Let me do this. It's already saved though as two, and it's saved as. Do you want me to save it first on the S&P 500? A little bit bigger, but I'll let you guys do that if you want to. I've got it as the S&P 100 right now, but all you want to do once you get the code, just go in and resave it to whatever scanning you want if you want it to remain that same one. Okay, so here we go. We're going to save this. Actually, let me just go right back into it. I'll just reload it, make sure everything's good because I did just change it. I'm going to keep the two bars back and we'll just share this. It's already saved. So anyways, it would have saved the right one. Here it is into the chat box and there you go. So here is the scan right there. Okay. There's the scan code again for the saucer strategy scan. It's bullish one, but there you go. All right. Now let's back it out. I'm going to go back to the code and I'm going to actually talk. It's in two. That's right. I updated it. So if I run it again, it's going to show it. I put a couple of different notes in here behind the coding. We've done some initial classes on the coding and gone through some of the details of this. This is really kind of a standard one. The difference here is consecutive bars green and consecutive bars red. We're really just looking at that two range and then, is it above the zero line? Very important. You can go through here, figure it out. But anyway, there is the code. And basically, folks, I just built much of this just off that indicator, just added a few scan things to get that strategy in place. I'm going to hit scan again and boom, there we go. So what's the best part about this scan is coming right over here and just pulling it up because then it will update for us every day. You got to save it first, of course. So save it. And by the way, just everybody that is new, copy that, go into the setup, open shared items, throw it right in there and click on preview. Name it though, something you're going to recognize. I normally just name it what it is. Awesome oscillator saucer, whatever. Import it, and then you'll find it right over here. You got to be in the scan tab. You got to be in that middle hamburger icon right there. You got to be under the load, and you're going to find it just to the left in your personal files in alphabetical order, whatever you named it. Awesome Oscillator is easy. It comes right to the top. Once you have it, though, come on in and find it again. Where are you? There you are. Awesome Oscillator Bullish. Link it to the chart. So red and red, or whatever numbers you want to have there. I'm going to pull it down over here. And so Apple had it too within the last two bars. That's interesting. I just clicked on Apple. What's going on? Oh, click it again. There we go. Apple's actually down today as well, but did we have it? This is the key thing. I mean, this is one that you're gonna have to excuse these lines on here. This is one of the swing trades that we're doing in the swing trade class, just an example trade. It is you can see the flag pattern up here. We got close to it, we pulled back down, but seeing if it can still make its way to its target. You can see the measurement of that flag right there, okay? Happens to be on this list. It did show up. It's one of the 21% of the S&P 100. These are basically just really large companies in the S&P 500, 100, larger capitalizations. With that though, did it work? Let's just confirm it. Let's do a full screen. Remember, we can go out as far as a 2-day look back period. Signal, there's zero. That's our signal when we get two greens. 1 and 2. When are earnings? I thought they'd be after hours. But they are. Wait, it is after hours. Okay, we don't have that. Interesting. So Apple, keep an eye on this, by the way. They have earnings after hours today. All right, just do a quick check here, see how we're doing. And yeah. Yeah, that is. I mean, that was, yeah, Microsoft. Sometimes they call those a parabolic move. And after it's had such a big run like that Microsoft, some traders will just say, you know what, let's give it. That's just made up a lot of ground here. Give it a little bit of time to see if it flags a little bit or whatever it does. And maybe then it's a little bit more interesting. Okay. Just saw that comment in the chat. Yeah, it's interesting. We looked at Adobe already, but look at this. We've got some of the banks over here too. We got this signal 2 days ago, but you know what happened? It's not green. It's red. This has been interesting for a little bit. Um, we have seen this basically pulled up bull flags. The signal was here 2 bars ago. Uh, this is another interesting kind of an aspect because after we've gotten some of the green bars, you're getting some of these little mini flag patterns still showing strength. Question mark there. It hasn't happened yet, but that's sort of an interesting one. Just taking that time though to go ahead and take a look at it. Oh, CRMs. That's going to be like software off the box. It's going to look a lot like Adobe. You can see it right down there. In fact, let's do this. I'm going to go into card zooming in. Is that easier on everybody's eyes? There you go. Don't have to squint. We've got half the data here, the most recent 6 months, and there you go. Where was the signal? Well, right there on that breakout. Okay. Okay, that one was kind of a little bit late because those are some big bars that moved in afterwards. Gilead. Okay, so getting into healthcare, and what I'm looking at here, I don't know if you guys can spot it immediately, but there could be a bigger move in place as we're looking to actually trade the ThinkScript, right? Trading. We don't want to forget what we've learned. By the way, earnings right around the corner. Anybody seeing it? What are you seeing on this? This spotted something very, very interesting. Bullish, I might say. Takes a second to come through, but did anybody say IHS inverted head and shoulders pattern on a longer term scale? And again, those can be bigger moves because we're coming off a big trend. This is a pretty interesting one. Shoulder, folks, head, shoulder again. What are we waiting for? Confirmation of a breakout move. We take the distance as a price pattern from this high to this low. We measure that off the top when it goes. I'm going to try to eyeball it the best I can. Probably somewhere upwards of near. That's right. Prior highs right there. Prior highs. So that's not a bad move. I mean, if it were to unfold that way, of course, you're looking for a breakout. This is trying to find it off the bottom ahead of earnings. We just found an inverted head and shoulders pattern. And I would say this, a rather clear one at that. MA. Yes. This, let me just show you. It's already hit two of them. Remember, initial move right there? Dang. Back to my 6 month chart. Got to see it. Okay. Right here. Right there. So the move up right there, second move. That's another indication. Right there is another indication. So there are a couple in here that help spot it for you. Of course, you'd probably want to be looking at this all the time. You might want to have it open like this every day or whatever uh, to see it if you're using it. MDT. Okay. Now, Medtronic, long term, kind of a downward move and an interesting, you've got to say it, call it for what it is. There's a double bottom there. We broke out and we saw something similar that we'd seen before. This was very similar on BMY. By the way, healthcare has been strong as of late. So be mindful of that. We've got a few different entry signals according to this in, what we're talking about here. Right there's one. Okay. There is one right there, right there. Another one coming in here, somewhere over here. We have another one right there. Okay. We got another one right there. So all through here, you have to say here, what is kind of fascinating is you've been making higher highs and higher lows. And although it looks sort of funny, it has been developing into a bit of a cup and handle right there. There's a saucer pattern. Now, this is also a saucer strategy. Is it finding some of those I mean, we're seeing a few of these, right, that have been rounding over. Um, it's designed to try to find, in a lot of cases, not every time, but strength off that bottom. is really one of the big drivers. See if that happens. Okay, so that's MDT, Medtronic, the maker of let's say for example, you know, joint surgeries and things along those lines, mainly medical device company. Here's MET. Okay, some pretty good strength, but are you seeing maybe some of the buy entries after a move off the bottom? That was the first move. Remember, it's got to be above zero, greater than zero, folks. It's finding it right there. Whoop, there you go. But look at this. Signal, 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 signal. Line them up. Do you see any flag patterns over there? After you've established that right there, I would say I'll just try to line them up. Here, 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 here. That was a nice one, by the way. It's in hindsight, but it's a nice one. And another one here, right there and there. So hitting a few bottoms on these little minor flags too, but not before it's established the possibility of maybe even this is, I mean, on a small scale, like a little cup and handle. That's why traders will look at the cup and handle. Ultimately, at the end of the day, you get a saucer bottom, a rounded bottom is also referred to as rounded bottom. But this portion right here, that's really the kicker for a lot of people because the cup and handle is made up of, a couple solid I mean, a couple of, I don't want to say solid patterns, clearer patterns, rounded bottom, bull flag, and there you go. Did everybody get the scan? Want to make sure you got it before I go. There's our Microsoft again. Let's hit just a couple more. There's Target right there. And yeah, really big moves in here, but are maybe some indications. Uh, there was something there. There's some flags, but only after it got above the zero line. Otherwise, it could be a little bit risky. All right, everybody. Well, that is what I've got for you today. I hope you found it informative and useful. Remember, if you did get some value to that, smash that like button. Be sure to follow us on X as well. Kevin Horner CS, Mike Fairwood CS, and check out some of those other classes that we have under Trader Talks. If you subscribe, Kevin's got some great stuff in the morning as well. With this class, I do link it to some of the swing trading classes that I have too. But folks, if there is interest, we can develop that other one that's maybe looking for some of the signals off the bottom, like right over here would be a bottom signal. We talked about that, but was happy to show you this. Ultimately, at the end of the day, you know what we're saying on this? We're finding divergence within the awesome oscillator. We're actually getting a sign of divergence in a lot of ways. We're seeing divergence occur early. We looked at that also a little bit later too. Higher highs, higher lows, whereas prices might be consolidating. Awesome oscillator might be going up. So we're seeing divergence. And with that, everybody, have a great rest of the day. It's always good being with you. And I'll look forward to future discussions. All right, everybody. Take care. Have a good one. We'll see you.